What if I told you that the one thing a narcissist fears most isn't exposure or even rejection? It's you waking up to who they really are. See, narcissists build their entire lives around control. Control over how others see them, control over what you think, control over your emotions, your responses, your boundaries. But when you finally start to see through the charm, the manipulation and the gaslighting, you become dangerous to them. You become someone they can't handle. In this video, we're breaking down 8 psychological steps, real, actionable ones, that don't just protect you from narcissists. They push narcissists away, and they do it in the one way narcissists can't stand, by making you immune to their control. Stick around until the very end, because the last step we're going to talk about is the one narcissists fear more than anything else. And it's also the step that most people never get to. It's not because they're weak or unaware, but because narcissists work overtime to keep you from reaching it. They use guilt, confusion, and manipulation to make sure you stay stuck in the cycle. But if you can make it to that final step, you'll be in a place of strength they can't touch, a place where their tactics stop working altogether. That's why it's so important to stay with me through the entire discussion. You'll need all 8 steps to get there. So now let's dig into these 8 powerful steps that are based on core psychological principles and behavioral insight. These aren't surface-level tips. They're rooted in the real patterns narcissists rely on, and how to dismantle those patterns, piece by piece. Every step you take reduces their ability to manipulate you. Each one chips away at the control they think they have, breaks the spell they've cast, and helps you start seeing things with clarity. The more you understand these strategies, the more empowered you become, and the less power they have over your thoughts, your emotions, and your life. Let's get into it. The first step is simple in theory, but incredibly powerful in practice. Recognize the pattern for what it is, and stop making excuses for it. Narcissists survive and thrive in the fog of confusion they deliberately create around you. They count on you to constantly doubt yourself, to second-guess your feelings, to overanalyze every interaction, to wonder if maybe you're the one overreacting. That self-doubt is exactly what gives them power. It keeps you quiet, compliant, and easier to control. But when you begin to identify their behaviors clearly, when you label it as manipulation instead of love, cruelty instead of honesty, domination instead of care, you begin to take that power back. You interrupt the script they've written for you. And suddenly, they're no longer directing your story. This doesn't require a dramatic confrontation. You don't need to call them out or prove your point. The most important shift happens inside of you. Simply being able to observe their patterns and name them honestly starts to change how you respond. You stop reacting emotionally to every jab or mind game. Instead, you begin to observe with clarity. You understand the purpose behind their actions. That awareness alone is a huge threat to a narcissist's control. Once you start seeing the manipulation clearly, it becomes harder for them to keep hiding behind charm or excuses. You stop giving them the benefit of the doubt, and you start trusting your gut again. Think of it like flipping on a light in a dark room. The things that once seemed huge and terrifying don't hold the same power under direct light. That's what recognizing the pattern does. It takes away the illusion. The monster doesn't seem so unstoppable anymore. You don't need to tossee or plead or get caught up in endless discussions that go nowhere. Just knowing what you're dealing with, truly understanding it, without sugarcoating or minimizing, is the first and most important move toward taking your life back. Trust what you see, even if it's painful. That truth is your way out. Number 2, you need to emotionally detach, and this step is all about reclaiming your internal peace. Emotional detachment doesn't mean shutting off your heart or becoming cold and uncaring. It simply means learning to protect your emotional state from being hijacked by someone else's manipulations. Narcissists thrive on control, and one of their most powerful tools is their ability to manipulate how you feel. They use flattery to lift you up, guilt to drag you down, and provocation to pull you into drama. It's like they're holding the strings, pulling you this way and that, waiting for your reaction. That reaction, whether it's tears, anger, begging, or defending yourself, is their fuel. It gives them energy. It confirms their power. When you begin to pull back emotionally, things start to shift. You no longer jump when they push your buttons. You stop feeding them attention when they create chaos. You don't let their moods dictate your day. Instead, you remain steady. You stay grounded, calm, and emotionally neutral. That neutrality isn't indifference. It's control. It means you're choosing to keep your emotional space safe from their influence. And that's what scares them. When they see they can no longer provoke a reaction, they realize they're losing their grip on you. At first, they may push harder. Narcissists don't give up control easily. They may test your boundaries more aggressively, create new conflicts, or switch tactics entirely. That's normal. It's part of the process. But the key is to stay consistent. Stay firm. Don't get pulled back into the emotional roller coaster. The more consistently you remain detached, the clearer it becomes that you're no longer a dependable source of narcissistic supply. You've become unpredictable, and to someone who thrives on knowing exactly how to push your buttons, that unpredictability is unsettling. Eventually, when they see that their tricks no longer work, that their emotional hooks no longer land, they begin to lose interest. They'll look elsewhere towards someone easier to manipulate. And that's exactly what you want. By taking back control of your emotional responses, you protect your peace, reduce their influence, and start reclaiming your power. Emotional detachment is not about closing off. It's about choosing what and who deserves access to your emotional energy, and a narcissist should never make that list. Number 3, set boundaries and enforce them without guilt. Boundaries are your protection. They are not cruel, they are not selfish, and they are not up for negotiation. Narcissists hate boundaries because they strip them of power. When you say no, when you don't answer that late-night text, when you don't justify yourself, or engage in circular arguments, you are taking your power back. But here's the thing, boundaries don't mean anything unless you enforce them. A narcissist will test you. They'll push back, guilt trip, accuse you of being cold or unforgiving. That's part of the manipulation. Stand your ground. The more consistent you are, the more uncomfortable they become. And that discomfort, that's what starts pushing them away. The 4th step is this. Don't argue, explain, or defend. This might sound counterintuitive, especially if you're someone who values communication. But narcissists don't argue in good faith. They argue to confuse you, frustrate you, and weigh you down. They bait you with accusations or emotional attacks, hoping you'll take the bait and launch into long explanations or defenses. Why? Because as long as you're explaining yourself, you're still in the game, and they're still controlling it. Instead, practice detachment. Respond with brief, calm statements. If they accuse you of something ridiculous, you don't have to justify your choices. You can say, "That's your opinion," or "I'm not discussing this." Silence is powerful. Refusing to engage shows them you're not emotionally hooked anymore. And that's terrifying for a narcissist who needs to feel in control at all times. 5th, keep your wins to yourself. Narcissists can't handle your success unless they think it benefits them. When they sense you're doing better without them, they feel threatened, and if you celebrate your growth, healing, or independence in front of them, they'll find a way to sabotage it, or twist it into something about them. So don't give them that opportunity. You don't need their validation. Your progress doesn't require their applause. In fact, keeping them out of your growth starves their ego and denies them a foothold in your life. They can't insert themselves into your narrative if they don't even know what's happening. Privacy isn't secrecy, it's protection. The sixth step is this: don't try to change them. This is where a lot of people get stuck. They hold on to hope that maybe, if they just love harder, communicate better, or explain things clearly, the narcissist will finally get it and change. But narcissists don't want to change. Change means admitting they're flawed, and that's intolerable to them. They see your hope as weakness. They see your efforts as opportunities to manipulate you further. The most powerful thing you can do is give up the fantasy of who they could be and accept who they are. That doesn't mean you're giving up on people in general. It means you're choosing reality over illusion. And once you stop trying to fix them, they lose the ability to keep you trapped in a never-ending cycle of disappointment and false hope. Seventh, rebuild your identity outside of them, piece by piece and without apology. Narcissists are experts at slowly breaking down your sense of self, often in ways so subtle you don't even notice it happening until you feel like a shell of who you used to be. They draw you into their world until your thoughts, your time, your emotions, even your dreams revolve entirely around them. Your needs are pushed aside, your passions fade, and your individuality gets replaced with constant efforts to please or appease them. But one of the most powerful and terrifying things you can do, from their perspective, is to start reclaiming yourself. It threatens the core of their control. Begin by doing the things you used to love before they took center stage in your life. Revisit old hobbies, activities, or places that made you feel alive. Spend time with people who knew and appreciated you before the narcissist entered the picture, people who saw your worth without needing to be convinced. Start saying yes to yourself more often. Make choices based on your own needs, desires, and intuition, without checking how it might affect or upset them. At first, it might feel strange or even selfish, especially if you've been conditioned to think only of them. But step by step, your confidence and identity will return. As you reconnect with the real you, the version that existed before the manipulation, the narcissist will begin to feel threatened. They'll notice they're no longer at the center of your world. You're no longer reacting to their moods, jumping to meet their needs, or waiting for their approval. You're pulling away from their emotional orbit, and that triggers panic in them. They sense that their influence is slipping. You're becoming independent, self-guided, and emotionally resilient. And to a narcissist, that's a nightmare, because they can't manipulate someone who knows who they are and refuses to be controlled. And finally, the eighth and most powerful step: walk away and mean it. Nothing scares a narcissist more than someone who refuses to play the game anymore. You don't have to announce it. You don't need closure. You don't owe them one last explanation. When you walk away and stay away, not out of anger, but from clarity, that's when you win. They may try to hoover you back in with guilt, charm, or promises. Don't fall for it. Stay grounded in the truth. They don't love you. They love what they can get from you. The best revenge is living a life free of their chaos, manipulation, and control. When you disappear from their radar, when you become inaccessible, when you stop responding, they feel powerless. And to a narcissist, nothing is more terrifying than losing the power they once had over you. So here's the bottom line. Narcissists only hold as much power over you as you allow them to have. Their control is not based on real strength. It's based on manipulation, confusion, and your emotional investment. The moment you begin to see their behavior for what it truly is, and stop making excuses or doubting your perception, the power dynamic begins to shift. When you start setting firm, non-negotiable boundaries and refuse to be pulled into their drama, their tactics lose effectiveness. And when you take back your emotional energy, when you stop feeding into their games, reacting to their provocations, or seeking their approval, you begin to step into a version of yourself that they can no longer manipulate. That's when you become untouchable to them. These 8 steps aren't about revenge or playing dirty. They're not about mirroring the narcissist's toxicity. They're about stepping completely outside of their game. You're not trying to win under their rules, because their rules are designed so that you always lose. The true victory comes from refusing to play at all. It's about detaching with clarity, moving forward with strength, and no longer seeking validation from someone who only saw you as a tool. The most powerful thing you can do is protect your peace and rebuild your life in a way that doesn't include their chaos. If this video resonated with you on any level, if you felt seen, heard, or understood, please take a moment to subscribe, like, comment, and share it with others. Someone in your life might be dealing silently with a narcissist, wondering what's wrong with them, feeling isolated or confused. Your one simple act of sharing could be the thing that helps them feel less alone and gives them the clarity they've been searching for. Thank you for watching and being part of this important conversation. Always remember this: your peace matters, your emotional safety matters, your truth, your boundaries, your self-worth. They are more than enough to drive any narcissist out of your life and keep them out for good. Stand firm in who you are, and let the clarity of your self-respect be the line they cannot cross.